Okay. Now, first thing I'm going to do is go and hit course content real quick. Click this. Go into chapter 1 homework. And stop right there. Just as a reminder, next week on Tuesday is our first exam, which also is the date that the homework's due. So let me go through one little thing with you that I took time to do. Gregory Klaus McCool, I want to thank you for putting your toe in the water, logging in, but not doing anything after that. You need to start getting the homework done. Barrios, Serwinski, Evans, Gibbons, Mitchik, Nekic, Breitenbach, Song, Bisolatis, White. You might actually want to stick your toe in the water and register for the homework. With that being said, I'm moving on. Done being dad, okay? Now go back to being professor. Because remember, if you don't get it done right there, you've already lost 18 points, which is effectively 2-letter grades on an exam. It's 18 points. They're pretty easy points. Those that have done the homework already, is it really that hard? If you think about it, the drop-down list, especially since I answered them in class, is now seeing if you can remember and do it. I mean, really? And come on, I know it's like, I didn't kind of like, push you in the water and say, let's see if you can swim. I actually did the stuff for you. So let's just do it and get the points instead of wasting the points. With that being said, yes, sir.
Is the homework due in 2 weeks or next?
February 20th. Oh, wait, I said 20. I'm just saying, 16th. Oh, its exam is 9th and 11th, 16th, 18th is next week. Oh, yeah, 2 weeks. Oh, that's right. Excellent. I was reading. That's how this was written. I'm using another person's. It's not my format. Okay, yeah, so, okay, that's right. Good. It's not next week. Good. So there is still time. That's right, because what we're doing now is we're finishing up 2, which I'm like, man, I've done 3 days and doesn't look right. Okay, I would look at the numbers. And I should get this right only because Thursday of this week, the 11th, is my birthday. I should realize that that's not going to be too. So yeah, so we start chapter 3 on my birthday next class, and then we have another week of doing that. Then the following Tuesday, the 23rd, is it? But yeah, meaning you still want to get it because you're going to start forgetting what I said in chapter 1 without going through the drop downs. You should be done with, everyone should be done with chapter 1 working on 2 right now. Especially when chapter 1 is only 4 questions, all of them are relatively easy. So with that being said, we left off, but I thought you may want to know a little bit in terms of like testing and so forth, right? Like, how will I be testing? Let me go over into course content, helpful insights. I'll do the accounting study aid draft. Then I'm doing the screen share because we do have one student who has some approved. Come on, just move. Get off of there. Okay, so right now my intention, which technically comes from chapter 2, to give 22 points of the exam on this one thing. Assets, liability, owner's equity, revenue, expense. Known as balance sheet income statement. 22 points will have things such as an account name. Can someone give me the name of any account at all that we've already talked about in accounting? Yes, sir. Accounts payable. Thank you. Now, would someone else tell me which of the 5 categories that account hits? I think it's actually on the test, to be honest with you. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Liabilities. So you put next to accounts payable, you just put the letter L on the test. Boom, you got 2 points. So with that being said, rather than jumping straight back to what we were doing, because this is part of what we were doing, but let's jump into this and might as well go through it again, right? And cover 1/4 of the test. Sound good? Or 1/5 of the test. Can anyone think of any other account names? Yes.
Notes payable.
What?
Notes payable.
Notes payable. Thank you. Okay, I'm like, account, I thought we just did that. Okay, yeah, notes payable. Yes, that's a good one. Okay. And someone else tell me what category it'd be. That's a liability. Yep. Another account.
Account receivable.
Account receivable. And that is what category? You can't answer. You don't have to answer to it. No, I'm kidding. Yes, an asset. She did both. And it says it right there. You see how we love this? Someone give me a revenue. Sales revenue. There's one which I'm intentionally taking up. I was going to put that, but hang on. Unearned revenue technically is the one revenue that is not a revenue. Unearned revenue is actually a liability, meaning they paid you for it, you didn't do it yet. I'm going to take that up. It's not on the first. That's not fair. It's fair game. It says it is fair, but I'm not doing that yet. So certain things I've been thinking of pulling, I'm like, oh, okay, no, get rid of that part. Yeah, let's make it reasonable. So that's where you see it, unearned revenue right there, liability. So your first day here, you signed in late, so you get a payback for me. Think of another account name. There's all listed at the bottom of the page. It's on the board. You can pick any one of them.
Notes receivable.
Notes receivable. What kind of account is a note receivable? Anyone? Who said that? Oh, come on, you're answering everything. What kind's a note receivable? An asset. See, it's all relatively simple, isn't it? So 22 points just to be able to know which category it falls into. And that's chapter 2. We did a trial balance before. And I'm going to take a minute to try and find one. And for that, with the trial balance, which is chapter 1 and chapter 2 where they have it with preparing, I'm going to have you actually prepare an income statement and a balance sheet. Because guess what you have to know for preparing a balance sheet? The heading, which is company name for a point. Then guess what you have to do below the company name? The name of the statement I said we're going to make you do on the test is what? I said we're going to take a trial balance and make you do 1 or 2 statements. So there's 2 different ones over there. Asset liability is one, revenue expense is the other. Pick what those are called. 3 categories make up 1 financial statement, 2 categories make the other. Don't know? That's fine. It's very, you have to know it by the 23rd. Rock on? Okay. Balance sheet is one of them. Yeah. And someone else behind you. What's the other statement name? You're making money, you're making what? Thank you, sir. You got it. See, rock on. We got this. It's not that bad. So guess what? When you do the balance sheet, you have assets, we touch it with the accounting equation, assets equal liability plus equity. So all you do is list all the assets just like you see here. Then you list all the liabilities and equity, and if you add this side to a total and add this side to a total, those two totals should equal if you did it right. Also known as the balance sheet. It balances. They don't say this is the balance sheet income statement because guess what? If that balances revenue and expenses, it means you broke even. I think if you did a lot of work, you don't want to break even, you want to make profit, right? That's why I don't call it balance sheet. If you do all that stuff for balancing, I'm like, I'd rather just sit home if I'm not going to get paid, right? So that's the income statement. How much income did you make? Hopefully it wasn't a loss, but how much income did you make? I'll be doing that. One of them will be doing it from a trial balance. The other one, I'll give you account names. The trial balance should be the easier way. Because in a trial balance, you have all the account names in order. It does all the assets, then it does the liabilities, then it does owner's equity, then it does revenue, and then it does expense, all in order. If you have a trial balance and I ask you to do the balance sheet, as soon as you see the first word that says revenue, like sales revenue, draw a line above it, and that's all you care about. The stuff below it you don't want to see because that's income statement. If I ask you to do the income statement, after the owner's equity part, you see sales revenue, you draw a line above sales revenue, everything above that, just put an X through it. You're not going to touch it. Pretty simple, right? And then the first point would be company name, then income statement, and then you put the date. So you got 3 points. And then you just put all the revenues and then all the expenses, and you say whether you made a profit or loss because it's revenue minus expense equals net income. But we don't write that for categories. Fair enough? So literally that line I'm saying, that's why I drew the line. It's written in this order on the trial balance. All the trial balance does is says whatever the account name is, total it and tell me if it's a debit or a credit, and you only put it on one side. Because if there's debits and credits, meaning increasing cash and decreasing cash, it better end with a debit to cash. That means you actually have cash, because if you don't have cash and it's negative, you overdrew, that means you owe someone. It's not cash anymore, it's a debt, right? Fair enough? I will never do that to you. It'll always be positive. So that's the easy way. The other way, though, in chapter 1, you learned it a different way. The way you learned in chapter 1 was, what are the assets? What are the liabilities? What are equity? So if I give you a revenue or an expense, like utilities expense, you draw a line through it if I ask you to do balance sheet. You just got to know the difference. Line through the ones that aren't balance sheet, that are income, and don't use it. Then you do asset, the liability, and equity. Same thing. Fair enough? Good. Now we're at 67 points of the exam. So what's left after the 67 points is all the rest is doing journal entries. So everything we do from now on is going to be like how we do a journal entry then. Help you know how the exam's going to be. 2/3 of it is just, can you tell me if this is an asset, a liability, equity, revenue, or expense? Then can you make it look like one? You simply just put assets, then you do the liabilities, then you do equity. That's balance sheet. If it's income statement, you do the revenues, subtract the expenses, and with the total, net income. After that, what we're doing is journal entries, which is what eventually gives you the things we're talking about. We good? So at least now you know how you're being tested and all. It's like, so yeah, all this time I've been saying, make sure you know what the assets are, the accounts, what category they fit into. Oh, that's 2/3 of the test without even doing anything. I mean, you're not doing a darn thing. No journal entry, no, just, okay, put it, connect the dot, you're done. Okay? We're good? Yeah, so it's not next Tuesday, it's 2 Tuesdays.
Okay, thank you.
I was like, something, but that tells you how deep I've been getting into Vita stuff and like racing, and I'm like, okay. But it says right here, 23rd, and I'm going from 9th to the 23rd is 1 week. Apparently I can't do math. I could teach advanced calculus, advanced statistics. I just can't subtract. Now you know why we add, right? Assets equal liability plus equity. Any questions from last time before I continue on? Oh, and just so you know, sir, if you do a search on my last name in YouTube or on this course number in YouTube, you'll find the other classes recorded. I'm leaving up there for a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll be able to catch up real quick, just, I mean, because each one's like an hour or whatnot, or a little bit less, and good.
Awesome.
And it actually shows you how to get into the homework, everything else, which I'm gonna still do it again. Because we have 10 people that didn't go like this with their toe yet, and 3 that did and logged in, but didn't do a darn thing after that. So now you'll catch up to them. Actually, you already caught up to 10 people. You feeling good now? See, no. You see, I'm doing it in humor. You know, it's like, whatever. You guys got time. And the reason I called the name out, because if any of you have an issue, let me know if there's a problem going on. Because I just found out in my tax class that I'm teaching, they're like, hey, we see the chapter 4 and 1, because I have a ton of the stuff loaded, but we can't get chapter 2. And it's there, it clicks on it. I click on it, it goes to a blank screen when you get the publisher site. I'm like, what the heck? Everything, it shows it's working. I see it, but as a student view, I go, it's not there. So all I did is go back out, edited, and didn't do anything except click all the boxes again. And the link worked. So somewhere in there, it just something, it shows it's fine, but it wasn't. So I thanked them and said, hey, I just found this out, and I'll start doing the homework on that. They were starting to do chapter 4 homework for this. They weren't doing 2 in my tax class. So that's why I said, do let me know if something happens where I don't see, because I do try and check these things, but if a link breaks and it doesn't show me an error where it turns like gray instead of black, which it normally is supposed to, I won't know there's a problem. But if I go with the student view, but trust me, I'm not doing student view rechecking things that were working before, you know? I'll wait till you tell me something broke, because I'm not going to go and keep track every day, you know, that, hey, there's a problem here. Okay. Share screen, I think it's this. Oh, come on, enter password. How many times? Maybe it's going to make me do this until I finally did, which I did it once already. Fine, yes, do whatever you want to do. Just let me do my job. Okay. Forget the share. It kicked me out of it entirely. Blackboard. That's all. I was wondering why nothing's there anymore. This is attempt number 3 to stay in. So back into test one materials. So this is what you do if you want to see how to get in. If you see I clicked on our course, then course content. When it comes up, this one here, it has no points optional. You don't have to do that. If you want to make sure you learned every single thing, this is how the book would make sure you learned all the learning objectives. PowerPoints, you don't have to click that, but that's provided and all that. These are the ones that you do want to do, as well as what I cover in class. But you click on this, it then will look from your book. This screen will not show up. It will ask you to enter your information, your name, your code, and all that from the book. It's called the bookstore. If you bought it online and you just rented the book and didn't get the Connect, then you have to pay like the 119 or whatever bucks. Then you have that and you have the ebook automatically. Fair enough? Yep. And then you can start doing the homework. But do it from the link. Don't try and do it from the book where it has a thing and try and find me. I've been teaching since 92. It's 7 different higher eds. Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And I've taught this course probably 60 times. I don't know. You could bounce it anywhere. So do the link to get to the right one.
Okay.
Because otherwise I can't fix that. Once you've used the code, you'd have to go to the help desk through McGraw-Hill and then ask them to re-put you in the right one. I can't do anything with it. But you can pay another 119 bucks. No, yeah. Then you get to wait on hold for the help. Okay. So with that being said, I think that was the one I was doing. Oh, this is the journal entries that we did before. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Enlarge. Get rid of that garbage. I don't need navigation. Okay. Now I can go back. No, not to that. I can go back to this. Enlarge. Share screen, and we're back. That's because we had there was a approved reason for one student not to be here because they had to travel back to South Korea for a family situation, then they'll be coming back. So I'm recording for that person, just so you know. So with that being said, we already went through these different journal entries explaining all those. Any of those are fair game along that line. And that would be the remaining, like, what is it? I said we were at 67 or whatever points. 25, 42, yeah, 67 points. So we're 33 points roughly would end up being journal entries. Now, when I say that, those points run fast because this one right here, someone did some labor, service fees earned, or you could call it service revenue. I don't care which way you did it. On my test, you can write it either way. Service fee revenue, or service revenue, service fees earned. I don't care. They mean the same thing. And your debit account receivable, which is an asset, to increase an asset, you debit it. You knew that was for $600 because it's given in the fact scenario when you read this. So if we're looking at the 21st, we'll go up to the description of the 21st. You provide service on credit for $600. The easiest way to get journal entry points with me, everything that you do is a point. Debit and credit means debit are this way, credit slightly indented. Fair enough? It says $600 or $600, right? If you only see one number and it says $600, do you think it's within the realm of possibility of putting the number 600 as a debit and 600 as a credit and get 2 of the 4 points right off the bat? I mean, is it feasible to just try and do that? I've had people like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, you can't even put the number down as a left and a right. Because debit means left, and we said that, and credit means right. So if you don't even know the words, just put the numbers down, you got 50%. It's a lot better than 0, right? Now, with that being said, I'm going to go back up and do that one. So this one would be 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points. So, service on credit. I'm like, okay, there's only one thing that says 600. There's no multiple numbers here. 600, 600, half done. Provide a service. You could say service fee earned because it says you provided it. Not that you will provide it. You already did. It's ED, past tense. You did this. You did a service. You provided a service. Okay, so I earned something or I have service revenue. I don't care which way you say it. The other is you did it on credit. Credit would end up being, okay, a credit card. You can think of it along that line, which means someone owes someone. The logic is, since I provide the service, they owe me. I don't know someone else. People got to get used to that because they're like, oh, I'm always the one using a credit card. No, that's the point on this. And I said, you can lose half your points by not remembering who you are. You're the bookkeeper. You're the accountant for the people that provided the service. And it tells you that record the following transactions for this speedy computer service. That's who you're the accountant for. So you're the accountant for the company. The company provided a service on credit, which means the buyer didn't give me cash. They said, I owe you. And we call that an accounts receivable instead of cash. If you didn't realize who you were and you're thinking, I'm not the company, I'm the buyer, I would have, as a buyer, I'd have an accounts payable, right? And you could say you received a service or call it whatever account you would, you know. You might call it service expense. Maintenance expense, what the service was for, right? Office expense, because they were fixing your machine, whatever. But in this one, we're representing the company providing the service. So that's where you get the names. But if you mess one of these up, you should still be able to get 50 to 75%. Here's what will mess with you. And I've had people write words, numbers, no indenting. They're both written to the left, straight down where cash is not indented, and you have this 5,000, 5,000, and that crossed over, that means they're both debits. So automatically half of it's wrong. You can't be right. And the first ones you have as a debit is what I give you credit for. So half of it's wrong right off the get-go. Indent. Fair enough? Yes?
Is the test online or are you giving it us?
Oh, I'll give it in paper. No, it comes to you. Yeah. And next week, I'll actually show you what it's going to look like. Don't worry, you won't be able to zoom in and see. I'm not passing it up, but it's just like, no, it's going to be written like this and so forth. And I'll give you an example with, we'll come back into this because this is what we did. We finished all these journal entries. Then we said, okay, do a trial balance. I'm not going to test you on a trial balance. Not this time. Fair enough? But to create a trial balance, you take all the cash accounts. I did that first. You have the 3,000 as a debit, 5,400 as a debit, minus 800 because it's a credit, minus 5,000 as a credit. And you do all that, you get the cash balance. Then after cash balance, you'd have like account receivable. And you're like, oh, okay, here's a receivable debit 600. And that's the only one. So your receivable debit 600. You follow my point? And then I gave you the subtotal. So this is so you could have done this at home if you want to know if you got this down. That was why you can do it. You can still print it, do it at a later time. I will release the solution now. Or later today or tomorrow. Then you can prepare from that. This is what will be on the test, where you prepare from that an income statement or a balance sheet. I'm not having you have to do this, but I'm showing you words. So from that trial balance, it'll be this thing completed. We will now go and say, how do you do an income statement? How do you do a balance sheet? Which means how do you get the other 47 points on the test? Sound good? It doesn't sound good. Oh, it does. Okay, you're shaking your head no. I'm like, okay, I thought I'd like it. Like, okay, this is literally what's on the test and how? You know, I'm like, yeah, so I'm that straightforward. If you can just do the things I tell you, and I tell you what's on the test. I can't tell you what journal entries per se because there's so many different kinds. You just got to know the account and be able to do some of them. I try not to make them the tricky ones. This is test one. And I don't try for tricky anyways. I'll tell you if there's a trick to it. I'll say pay attention on the, you know. This is test one. It's going to not be the bad one. As long as you did your work, you'll be fine. That's why you want to do the homework to make sure you get it down. Okay. So with that being said, now I'm going to go and pull the solution part to it. Why is it at internships? Give me a break. Course content, test one materials. So this is it being completed, and I will release this. I'll release the solution to you guys, because all you're doing is taking debits and credits. You add the debits, you add the credits, subtract the two, whichever side's greater is where you write it. All right, if the left is greater, the debit side, then it's nets to a debit. Credit side's greater, you subtract the two, it nets to a credit. That's it. So you notice they don't do the debits first and then the credits. They do it in the order of liquidity or closest to becoming cash. Or you could say current to non-current, or you could say short-term to long-term. We good? If you don't have it in that exact order, that's fine, but you have to at least have an asset and then the liabilities and then the owner's equity, then the revenue and then the expense. You have to have the 5 categories correct. I don't get strung up on liquidity order, short-term to long-term at this point. Later, when we start talking and going through long-term ones, and well, then you should have learned it by then, because now you'll have been doing it for 2 months. Come on, you follow my point? So with this, cash, account receivable, supplies, accounts payable, capital, withdrawals, service fee earned, external expense, equipment rent expense, seller's expense. I'll ask you one question or I'm picking around. If you don't get it, that's fine. Because this doesn't, I got to pay that because it'll be on the test. That's why I'm doing this. So if you get it wrong in class, don't worry. That might mean you'll remember it. Because like how you called me, I remember that one now. What account does it start, or what category of account does it start with? Assets, yep. What category of account does it end with? If you're not sure, look over at the far side. Remember there's 5 categories over here? And it stays the same every single time. What's that one stand for? Huh? Expenses. Expenses, right. So if you catch now that I proved to you it follows that order, asset, liability, owner's equity, revenue, expense. It follows that order for trial balance. All of the assets are together, then all the liabilities are together, then all the owner's equity are together, all the revenues together, all the expenses are together. From that, I have to ask one question. How many people here watch Caddyshack? Okay, 2. At what point do you think I am still beating a dead horse, right? Have I covered it enough times? Those of you, all the rest of you that haven't watched, you got to watch Caddyshack. Have you watched Blazing Saddles? No. Cheech and Chong? I mean, what are you guys doing? No. Okay. So you have assets. Assets is the first category. How many asset accounts are there on this trial balance? In yellow. I'll go back to tap you if I have to. I'm not supposed to cross line. How many asset accounts are there? Don't worry, if you get it wrong, that's fine. Or where does the liability start? No problem, that's fine. Sir, your turn. Where do liabilities start?
Accounts payable.
Bingo. Accounts payable, go back to the last one. How many asset accounts are there? Because it goes assets, liability, equity. How many are there above my finger? Yep. Asset, account receivable, supplies are all asset accounts. Liability said is accounts payable. How many liability accounts are there, sir? How many are there? 1, good. See, I was kind of giving a hint the whole time I pointed to you. How many were there? That was, yeah. I tried to help with it, And the point is, if you don't get it, that's good. I'm trying to have you know, you follow my points, just work with me. Don't feel it. Oh, you just got to call me. Well, yes, so does that affect your points at all? No. Hopefully it's a learning thing. So 3 asset accounts and a liability account. What's the next category after liabilities? Owner's equity, yes. How many owner equity accounts are there? Thank you. So I said, how many are there? He didn't even catch it, but I actually showed 2 fingers. Yeah. Yes.
Can you explain owner equity again?
Yes, I can. Oh, you actually want me to do it? No, I'm just messing with you. That's the one I said really in the balance sheet. Assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. I would say the best way to think of it right now is a plug account. It makes it all balance. The only thing you've learned on it so far is when you owner gives some assets or money to the firm to set it up. Remember we did that example of the journal entry? What happens is cash increases, owner's equity, capital account increases, B. Smith Capital. When he takes money out of the firm, meaning it's no longer in the company, it's in his own personal pocket, that's a withdrawal. That's all you really have to know. But really, it's just a plug account right now. But yeah, it's just keeping track of, if you think about it, assets minus liabilities gives you net worth. This is really the net worth of the company, which is the net worth of the owners. Only related to the company, not their personal wealth. Fair enough? But it's also a plug for us right now. Well, it makes everything else balance. So there's two capital accounts. Service fees earned. What's another way of saying service fees earned? Thank you. Revenue starts what type of financial statement, friend? We said, what are the two financial statements, the big ones we talk about? I'll give you a hint. What does BS stand for? And watch your language, young lady. BS. IS. What's that? I can't hear. Income statement, IS, yes. And what does BS stand for? Thank you. I thought she was going to cuss for a second. Okay. Sometimes what I say is BS, but that's because it's on the balance sheet. So if you drew a line right above that and drew a big dark line right here, all of this up here is the balance sheet. All of this down here is the income statement. You don't use the total, because that's only for the trial balance. You just delete the total line. Because not half, but part goes to one statement, part goes to the other. You like rip it into it and say, okay, now let's create the two statements. How many revenue accounts are there in this? Huh? Yep. And I also said how many are there? Yeah. Okay. After revenue, sir. Thank you. And how many expense accounts are there? And I can't symbolize it because I didn't even look. I got to count it myself. There's a hint. It ends in the word expense. So how many expense accounts are there? No, it's behind you. The lady behind you. Yeah, you already answered earlier. I passed you.
3.
Thank you. There's 3 expense accounts. So again, where's the cutoff between the two financial statements, the balance sheet and the income statement? Where's the cutoff? What's the last account you have in the balance sheet, and what is the first account you have in the income statement? We'll jump back to you since you're the one that got it. Where's the cutoff between balance sheet and income statement? That dark line you draw. Or if you think of it this way, I wrote the line right here. What's the last category account and the first category account? Behind you. Yeah.
Oh, this is doing B. Smith withdrawals and the service fees are.
Bingo, you got it. If you can do that and do the break, that's the biggest trick to getting those 22 and whatever points. Because you got to know what you do count, what you don't count. If in the trial balance, I asked you, the break we're saying is right here. If I asked you to prepare the balance sheet, what would you X out and not look at? Below it. So you just go like this with the big X and say, I don't care about that stuff. That's garbage now. On the other hand, if I said I want the income statement, you do the opposite. You draw an X through this. Then I told you to create the heading. There's 3 things that make the heading of the financial statement. Can anyone tell me what the first thing would be? Hint, there's a heading up there. Yes. Name of the company, you just got 1 point on the test. What's the second thing? This one says trial balance. But on the test, what would I be asking you to do? I say create 2 financial statements. Name one of them. Ms. Friend? You said one last time. Income statement. So I asked you to do the income statement, be in the bottom half. You put income statement right there. If I didn't, you said the other one, it would be what? Then you write balance sheet there. That's another point. You got to do the right one. When I tell you which one to write, don't say, no, he's lying, I'm doing the other. Trust me, you won't get credit for it. Right? If I say do the balance sheet, don't write income statement, do the income statement. I didn't ask for that. I asked for the balance sheet. And then you have to give the date. That's a point. There's a nuanced trick to it, but I'm not going to care on the first test how you do the date. I'll tell you later, and I did say before, that one of them is a snapshot, the other one is a period of time. So one, you have to say for the year ended or something. I'm not making you do that. Just give me a date. You follow my point? I'm being nice. We'll be more precise next time. Test one. Shh, don't tell anyone. It's easier. We good? So do you feel relatively comfortable? We haven't done it yet, but to be 2/3 done with the test, and it's just this that we're doing. Can you go into that one sheet that I said, know what assets are, what liabilities are, equities are, the thing that should end with the word revenue, but instead they say service fees earned. Okay, it still means revenue. And all the rest say something expense. There's a little trick to it when you have some prepaids or you have unearned. I'm not going to throw that to you. I'll delete those. Shh. It's supposed to be on the test. Shh. It's gone. I'm not going to try and do the tricky ones. Unearned revenues deemed a liability. I won't put that on. You won't even see it. On the homework, it's still fair game, but I won't do that on the test. Okay? Test 2, it's fair game because now you've had 2 times to be able to. Okay, so you said right, sir, you said right after the B. Smith withdrawal starts the income statement. So that would be right after it. I cut off a touch, but it's not that perfect with the scroll down. So company name, income statement. For the month ended, that's because it's a period of time for income, but if you just gave a date, I'm not going to mark off yet. Test 1, no. Test 2, yes. Test 1, no. Service fees earned, it just says fees earned. You could have said service revenue. I don't care. I just need to know you know what you're doing. And what did they do? It was 12,000? 12,000. Expenses, they put a category after that. You could have put revenue right above this and said that, but there's only one revenue. Expenses, equipment rental expense. Then they did gas oil. Does it have to be in that order? No, any order. You follow my point? And expenses are expenses. Why did they switch the order? I don't know. So 8,000 or 800, 2,500, 5,000. 800, 2,500, 5,000. You put the 3 names. They totaled the expense. Revenue minus expense gives you the word net income. That's the only one you got to remember to say is net income is the bottom line answer. Net income can be negative. Guess what that means? It's a net loss. It's positive. Net income means it's profit. You know that by being positive or negative. If it's negative, you can put a minus sign. You can put a bracket around it. It all means the same thing. Now, if this was on the test, with this many accounts in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes?
How is it a profit if you're spending? How is it like a profit if you're spending?
Oh, because what it is, 8,300 is the cost. This is your revenue. Revenue minus cost gives you your profit. Now, the one thing is, you earned it. It didn't say they ever paid you. It could still be account receivable. They owe you it on credit card. You follow my point?
Yeah.
And when we're saying that it's your credit card, like your company, you gave them a credit card in your name. But I'm not getting that particular, just go with it. But some people say, well, if they paid in credit, you still receive the money because they only take that off the, you know. I'm like, no, you're thinking too deep and too much now. You follow my point? Keep it simple. But that would be the income statement. That'd be like 14 points right there. The one I have is 20, which means there's probably a couple of revenue accounts and more expense accounts. The balance sheet's 25 points. So that's the income statement. Remember, to do the balance sheet, we got rid of the service fee earned or revenue, everything above that. So it'd be cash, accounts receivable, supplies, accounts payable is a liability. Then these are the two owner equity accounts. Now, the one I have is going to have more accounts than that. There's the one. Company name, 1. Balance sheet, 2. The date, 3. Assets, cash, account receivable, supplies, total the assets, total assets. Liabilities and owner's equity, the liability is accounts payable. And then they gave owner's equity. That's netted. Remember, you had the one and the other, they had the B Smith capital and the B Smith withdrawal. You take their capital, you subtract their withdrawal, and you get the net amount. Would it be okay to put the positive and the negative? Yeah. But you're supposed to just net it. Then you get it. So this would end up in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's 25, which means there's 4 more accounts than the one I'm doing on the test. Your first day here, you feel relatively okay with 67% of the test?
Yeah.
And you're like, you've been here for 1 day. It's not that bad. Just pay attention to exactly what I'm saying, I try and make it as simple as possible. Okay? So really all that's left that we're doing is focusing on some journal entries. How do you record these things? That's a touch trickier. Normally, how this is approached is that's the major emphasis of the test is let's do all these ones. Well, that's actually the harder part, even though 50% of it should be easy. Remember 600, 600, and done it, you got 50% right. Okay. And again, I will fix and load that up for you so you have the whole solution. I just wrote it to remind myself because I'm like, oh, that's right. When I leave here, I'm normally done. No, I'm not. I'm doing VITA. Which means I will be doing tax returns from 1:30 until 5:30 and then try and close it out and then go and grab a bite to eat at about 6 p.m. Hopefully I can order food by then because since yesterday's dinner, what I've had other than a little bit of venison jerky, has been cream of wheat with some dried fruit in it over hot water in my office between a little bit of coffee. That's every Tuesday. That's all I rarely get a chance to eat much. 24 hours with that in you, it's like, I'm still thinking, okay, but when I'm doing people's taxes, I'm not guaranteeing at that point. I'll be dousing coffee and just saying, get me to 6 p.m. where I can actually eat again. I know you're not going to feel bad because guess what? If this actually goes down and isn't as round, I'm okay with not having a round shape to my body. I have spent time building it, but I'm willing for it to go away. So if you notice, I always try and do a little levity. It's normally against myself, but a little levity to, everyone's ready to do the next part. Cleared through. We've done 3 major things here as a reminder. First major, remember the 5 accounts. Try and write this on a sheet of paper, just in your own head. The 5 categories of accounts, draw a line between them. Then you remember, this is then write balance sheet, income statement. Oh, wait, I mean balance sheet, income statement. I flipped it backwards. I was going across. You do balance sheet, income statement. What that did is it now has you remembering, okay, and then remember, this is asset, liability, equity, revenue, expense, and try and think of a couple in each area. So you make sure you got it down. Expense is pretty easy. Revenue is pretty easy, except they may call it fees earned. Think of a couple asset names, a couple liability names, and pretty much this is just capital. Like you would ask the question, it's capital or capital withdrawal, right? Person withdrawal. That's all we've really covered in it. We're keeping it simple. If you have that, you already know that you should be able to have the 20 points of what category does that account fill in. The other thing that you should end up knowing is that this is your balance sheet, that's your income statement, that's the other 47 points. I'm still deciding if I'm going to do the remaining 33 as journal entries or if I'm going to actually put one out there, which would end up being this. If I put it out there. What I just wrote there is DR plus to increase it. What is the normal balance in an asset account? It's a debit balance. That's how you increase it. Obviously, the normal balance is what you'll hear people say. What is the normal balance? The normal balance, whether it's debit or credit, would be how do you increase it? Because you think about it, would it normally be the one that subtracts? No, it normally would add. So how do you increase liability? Credit. How do you increase owner's equity? Credit. How do you increase revenue? Credit. How do you increase expense? Debit. If you also do it by category, did you catch the little simple rule? Debit. The other side is debit, and everything in between is credit. You can write a cheat sheet like that after I give you the test. Debit. Debit on the other end. Credits in between. Draw a line down between OE and R. You think how fast you could write this as a quick memorization thing? It should take you at least, what, 20 seconds on the test? And then from then on, if you get into like a brain fart where you can't remember, you just go over and look, oh yeah, that's what I got to do. It'll help you on every journal entry. It'll help you for the balance sheet, for the income statement, because what I would also do is I'd write this. Now you've just done enough to sit there and give you every single thing except for the journal entries. And then you really did the journal entries too, because with the journal entries, you got to know how to increase or decrease it. If you receive the cash, does that increase it? Well, you know, cash is an asset. Did you receive or give it? If I received the cash, I'm debiting it. If I got rid of cash, it lowered. Well, it's the opposite of that one, so I'm going to credit it. It's your answer key to every single thing on the test, that little bit right there. You can get every answer that I'm going to test you on with this little diagram. That's all you have to know on everything. But don't worry, on other tests, I could put on a cash flow statement and a statement of owner's equity. That's the only two things that don't flow from this totally. And if you were to sit there and become an accounting major and you went to intermediate accounting, again, 80% of everything you do is just this little bit here. And that's intermediate 1, intermediate 2, and advanced accounting. This little cheat sheet right here covers 80% of accounting. It's not that bad, but don't worry, it's hard to not make good money when you're an accountant. But there's a lot of careers that can do that. Fair enough? Now all I'm saying is, did I simplify this course enough? I mean, literally. Every test we take in here, that's 80% of the exam. And if you're not able to remember that, okay, come on, people, come on, work with me here. You know, I'm not asking that much. That's why I've been calling on getting you thinking, then realize, okay, you got this. Well, if you really have this done, you got the test down. And when I say that, I'm leaving this on the board for a bit. We're going to now jump over just for about 2 more minutes. I'm letting you out early because this is the first day setup. I got to go over there. So it's only about 2 more minutes. So what I want to do is show you, was it this one? Did we hit it or not? I'm trying to look to see if we hit it. If we did, then it's even done already. This is the T accounts. We did show this already. So it's just journal entry. So yeah, so next class, what we'll do is we'll get into journal entries. Okay, and I'll show you it and we'll go through those again. We've already done some. But if you could, I'm trying to go through, if you could spray the dust. So if everyone would wait by your desk for just a second so you can spray it so that way people can leave. I'm going to sit there and grab a question so I can wipe my off and then I'm out of here. But if you have any questions while I'm still in here, feel free. And again, you can always reach me. I'm pretty much load around here during the week.